lockdown lift up without actually streaming it anywhere. So, that sucks. And we'll do it again. Sorry about that to everybody. I was wondering, like, where are the peeps? Why is nobody like commenting? And I was just like, you know what, Ellie? Just put it out there. That's what we're supposed to do. People will find the message if they need the message. And they can't find it if you're streaming to your hard drive. Let me tell you. Okay, so, well, that was a mistake that I made, but we're all right. I'm going to double check right now that I am, in fact, actually streaming. And I am sorry that I did that. But anyway, happens, right? Cannot make mistakes. Well, it was some darn good stuff, folks. I hope it actually recorded. Maybe I'll put it up. But here's the thing. I did this and it went to, what was I talking about? Personal attack ads. So your internal messenger of bullshit, being really hard on yourself and self-critical, which is exactly the same thing that I've just said twice now. Well, both in terms of going live and not. And so let me walk you through this because I think it was really important. And I want to offer this lockdown lift up for every day, but I've got to go live when I do it. And otherwise, I'm just talking to myself. So welcome. I hope you're here now. Okay, let's do this. So let's talk about personal attack ads. You know, life can be hard enough without us talking smack to ourselves. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the way so many of us, myself included in the past, I've really been working on this for a very, very, very long time, is the way we talk to ourselves is very detrimental to what one would consider to be self-care. And really having a great relationship with ourselves, which sounds really weird, but at the end of the day, we are our constant companion. And so if we spend our days beating ourselves up, saying like negative things about, you know, oh, I'm so fat, or oh, I'm so not good enough, or that person is so much more, successful than I am, or I'm so lazy, like whatever, insert your negative dialogue, in this pot right here. Whatever it is that potentially you say or like to yourself that's negative, the truth is it's just going to make your life harder. Like, life's hard enough. Let's stop beating ourselves up. And so I worked really hard on this for a lot of years, and I'm going to share with you how I came to overcome my negative self-talk. Now, full disclosure, of course, it creeps in. There are tough days or days when I'm getting close to my max of, what I can handle, like every other person. And so when I'm tired, I might be more likely to slip into these negative patterns from the past. And I go back to the exact same process to bring it to the forefront. So essentially, in order to overcome our negative inner critic, we have to be aware of what we're saying and how it's showing up in our lives. And when I was, I was very blessed. I had a doctor, Dr. T, I call him in my book. And we talked a lot about, well, he's actually a specialist in acquired pain, traumatic pain. And so as a psychologist, he did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy with me. And you'll notice a lot of that is the underlying of my foundational messages and the work that I do and the concepts I've created. And one of the things when we first started working together, I was clueless. I didn't even know that I was talking to myself negatively. Wait, I'm going to double check that I actually didn't go live. Hold on. Because I'm like, I feel like, what if I went live twice? So just bear with me for a moment. I mean, maybe somebody needs to hear it twice. Post an activity. Let's just double check, shall we? Somebody be like, Allison, You already went live. Okay, wild card topic. Yeah, no, I didn't go live before. Good. Okay, so let's walk through this. So the thing with Dr. Tony is when I would go into the office and I would be like, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I've done this. Thank you. Somebody's texted me to let me know that you're there. So that makes me super, super duper happy. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I would say things like that, and he'd go, Allison, who are you talking to? Who are you talking about? And I'd be like, me? Like, I don't even think I clued into the fact that what I was saying was actually negative and cruel to myself when I would never say it to somebody else. And I remember actually I had a new client who came along, Rod, thank you so much, because here's the thing, you may have missed the beginning. I actually did my entire live and like 20 minutes and was not actually streaming. So I'm redoing the exact same topic. So fun. Okay. So we've got to notice it. But Dr. Satan would like, who? So anyway, I had this client and she came into my room. We had our first like meeting and, she kept going on about like, telling me her story, and we were brand new together. And she's like, oh, I'm awful at sales, and oh, I'm awful at this, and I'm awful at that. And, it just kept going on. And at the end of the meeting, I said, listen, what would be really helpful for me is if you could just create a list of everything you're awful for at. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you've told me you're awful at this in the course of our very first meeting together. And I just need to keep a running total of what you're awful at. Now, of course, I was being cheeky. She didn't even realize she was saying it. And so what I did was I challenged her. I said, listen, I want you to put on the top of your notepad the word awful. And every time you say you're awful at something, please just make a little tick mark, right? Just tick, 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 tick. So we can start getting aware of when you're actually saying something. And that was really pivotal for her because she started to notice like, oh my gosh, over the course of like 2 days, I said I was awful like 100 times, right? And so life is hard enough. So we can't just keep beating ourselves up by saying you're awful. Now, you may not be exceptionally talented at something, but she wasn't even awful at all those different things she was saying she was awful at. So that's a piece of the puzzle, is recognizing it, bringing awareness to it. And Dr. Tony was the person who brought awareness to it for me. So you could have an accountability person, somebody who, when you're saying something negative about yourself out loud, they call you on it. And I do this a lot with my friends. I will be like, they'll say, oh, I'm such an idiot or whatever. And I'll like interrupt them and go, that's not acceptable. I need a new word. I won't, the conversation can't continue because I'm so sensitive to people saying negative things about themselves. And I try to catch myself when I do it as well. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same. So we have to notice our patterns. And within negative self-talk, there will be certain patterns that you always say if you have this issue. And so write those out, because one of the biggest gifts we can do is giving our internal critic an external voice. Because when we see it in black and white on a piece of paper, what happens is we can look at what we're saying objectively. Whereas if it's just something rolling around in our mind, it's sort of like ambiguous and we can't really grab onto it. And so that is why we need to give it an external voice. And so one of the things I notice is that when I'm journaling, it's usually the times when I'm like in my Zen zone and I'm, watching or just being at peace. And often that's not when the critic arrives. The critic arrives in our mind when we're in the thick of it, when we are, doing what it is we do and we default to a negative thought in our voice, in our head. So that's why I believe in micro journaling. And what I mean by this is take a Post-it note, little pad of paper, always keep it handy. Notice those lines, those triggers that, are your negative self-talk, and just scribble them down on a piece of paper. Just scribble them. And there we go. When it's out on a piece of paper, we can actually look at it and go, is that true? And objectively look at what you're saying and provide facts. Provide facts for that it is true, if you can find them, and provide facts that it's not true. And then what we have to do is we have to replace the storyline. So often, people will say to me, I just have to stop thinking like this. I had to stop talking, saying this or whatever. And I'm like, maybe we actually need to lean into what you're saying and objectively look at it from a place of curiosity and figure out, is it the right thing? Is it true? Is that what I really want to say about myself? Is that the journey that for the next X number of decades, I want to be on a path that says that crappy thing about who I am? Is that really what I want to say? And then we got to figure out a way to replace it. So looking at it and going, well, maybe, I used to say when I was really in a lot of pain, I was like lazy. I'd be on the couch and having a nap. And so I'd call myself lazy. That was one of my words. I had to fix it. And so then I started saying, well, actually, I'm caring for my body, which is exhausted. And so I need to do this. And so it just lightened the load a little because we need to be able to find a new phrase to put in because our minds are going to be active. They're going to keep going. So we got to take this negative thing and replace it with something that's positive. Now, if you've had decades of beating yourself up and being negative, then it might be very hard to just replace the word all of a sudden. So we got to build up to it. And this is where awareness and the solution activation principle, that is the second response, is the most important. So the first response is instinctive, right? We just do it. You're feeling crappy about something, or you make a mistake, you might say, oh, I'm so dumb, right? Or I'm an idiot, or whatever you might say. I hope you don't say it, but you might. And then you might go an hour beating yourself up, and then you're like, oh, wait a second. No, this doesn't feel good. This isn't what I want to do. This isn't how I want to show up for myself. And then you replace it and go, okay, you put it out on a piece of paper and you go, is that really true? No. What could I say instead? And you go that way. Okay. And then you replace it. But as we go along in this journey, we go from beating ourselves up for an hour to 45 minutes, to catching it at 10 minutes, to recognizing it a minute later and changing the story, to getting to a point where maybe you say, I'm so lazy. But as you start to say, your mind is like, no, we don't say that about ourselves anymore. No, we're going to say something positive. And you instead say, I'm so lovely as a person, right? Or I'm so liking taking care of myself, right? And you interrupt midstream of that first response. And then eventually your brain expects you to just say nice things about yourself. And then we build on the next phrase and build on the next phrase and build on the next phrase. And oh, by golly, life is so much easier when you walk through the typical ups and downs of life, but you're not adding an element of punching yourself and beating yourself up in your mind. Could you imagine how much freedom if you let go of all the self-judgment, all the self-criticism, how that would lighten up your days? Oh my gosh. I know for me, this is why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because I know that I was so cruel, and Dr. T can tell you, I was a master, and some friends will probably tell you too. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. And I've gone the other way where I'm just saying kind things to myself out loud, But here's the thing, we all have our own journey. And if we can't say something nice about ourselves, why would somebody else say something nice about us? Right? It's okay to be like, I like to have fun. I like to not beat myself up every moment I get, right? And the chapter in the book called Personal Attack Ads must have been when I must have written this when there was a lot of politics going on. And I was likening it to like if our opponents could pull out what we say in our heads about ourselves and use those as the political attack ads, right? They wouldn't even need sharpshooter, PR people. They just use our own thoughts about ourselves against us. Think about it. Oh, goodness. Like, you may not have this problem. Not everybody does. Well, I don't know. I think we all have a critical voice because we hold ourselves up to such a level of expectation compared to what we hold other people to, right? Like, and the words we use are so powerful because the the subconscious doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't know we're just kind of joking or we're being cheeky or that maybe it's not as bad as we're making it out to be. So there we go. Give your external or your internal voice an external presence. Look at what you're saying objectively and decide, is that really the voice that I want to walk the rest of my life with guiding me? Or do I want to choose a kinder, gentler, more compassionate approach to dealing with myself? Then when you see that and you have the awareness when it's happening, as soon as we recognize it, we want to fill that space. We want to flip the script. Flip the script so that we can, choose better, kinder words. And then enjoy the freedom and be okay with saying something nice about yourself, regardless of what other people think. Oh, yeah, you should. Because like misery loves company, right? And so when you're like down in the dumps, sometimes it's easier for people to connect with you, right? And so we can do that to not outshine someone or to make somebody, because misery loves company. So it's nice when we're miserable. Let me just look at the chapter, see if there was anything else I put in there. Yeah. Wouldn't say to a friend, then I wouldn't accept saying it to you. Oh yeah. So there's the other thing. A lot of people do have negative self-talk, and a lot of people are struggling with mental health right now. And so if we as our how we show up in the world, if we can help other people to interrupt those conversations in their head, let's do it. Right? Let's call them call them out on it when they say something negative. Okay? I think that's important. Well, I did 2 lives today, except one wasn't really live. I hope I have the recording of the first one. I might pop it up on YouTube. If you're loving these, we only have another week left. They're going to end on the 20th of May, which is when the original lockdown for Ontario was supposed to end. I very well may do get the loaded back up the next week, but I am going to be moving and I just want to take some time to get settled and all of that. So I hope that's okay. I hope it's okay. We don't really have a choice. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Rod. Hi. Maybe one good way to kill the internal critic, become an informal mentor. Work it for a little while and then find an informal mentor for yourself. Compare what you're doing to support someone junior with what your mentor did for you. Yes. Love this, Rod. Great example, because it's about being held accountable, right? And having somebody bring it out. Just like I had Dr. Tony, who was able to show up for me and help me notice the pattern. We can show up for others and help them notice their pattern. And then when we're mentoring, I think, Raw, what you're saying about mentoring is so critical because we're always in our best game when we're showing up for somebody else, right? And to LinkedIn user, I loved this. Out having food and tuned in. Extremely glad I did. Thank you so much. Well, LinkedIn user, I'm not sure who you are, what your actual name is, but here's the thing. You know how I believe in silver lining thinking? Maybe the reason that I did an entire live without actually being live was so that the timing would be right for when you needed to hear something in this and you were eating at this point and tuned in and got to hear it. So if I would have started at 3:15 like I did, I would have been done by the time we started this, and you wouldn't have had the opportunity to tune in. So see, there we go. That's silver lining thinking in real time, folks. This is the lockdown lift up. This is how I choose to see the world, from a place that makes me feel happier. Now, did the universe conspire to make that happen? That's not my call. I don't know, but I'd love to believe that to be true. And so I hope that you have gotten something from this. And next time you say something negative about yourself, just notice it, challenge it, and flip the script. We may never get rid of that instinct to be negative, but if we can flip it, and if we can do that fast, the faster we do it, the sooner we stop beating ourselves up, the less stressed we are, the more resilient we are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all leads to our overall happiness. So thank you very much for being here. I'm really grateful for each and every one of you. I will see you on Monday at 3:15 p.m. And there may be more boxes around me, but it's going to happen. Thanks for being on this journey with me as I decide to move, and super excited about that. And then once I get out to the lake, I will figure out if I have the bandwidth to actually do lives every day. So I'm going to test this weekend. I hope you have the best weekend. Bye for now.